This podcast is brought to you by the Orlando Economic Partnership. Welcome to the City Playbook, a new podcast that's going to take you behind the ideas, the innovation, and the initiatives shaping the future of Orlando. I'm Tim Giuliani, President and CEO of the Orlando Economic Partnership. If you've ever wondered what it takes to make a city a place people want to live, play, build, belong, develop, then this is the show for you. This is for policymakers, business leaders, students, residents, anyone that's paying attention to how the future of Orlando is taking shape. We're going to have conversations that typically happen behind closed doors, give you access to the decision makers and the difference makers that are shaping the future of Central Florida. So if you're curious about what's next for Orlando, and join us as we build the city together. Welcome to another edition of the City Playbook. I was lucky to sit down with Michael Brown, the president and CEO of Travel and Leisure. It's a Fortune 1000 company that's headquartered here in Orlando, amongst a number of headquarters for vacation ownership. Mike gets into the story of Travel and Leisure, what's bringing their headquarters into the downtown market, but also a little bit about their philanthropic views, how he's been a civic leader, how they've put children through college and helped to revitalize neighborhoods. Fascinating conversation. I hope you'll join us, and I hope you'll like, share, and subscribe. Now let's get into the show. Mike, love having you here. Would love to get started just understanding more about your background, particularly as it relates to business and your career, long career here in Orlando.
Well, my long career in Orlando was broken into three parts. I've lived in the Orlando community three times, 94 to 96, not too far out of college. Came down from Northern Virginia where I grew up, and then came back after an overseas stint of about 4 or 5 years, came back and lived for two years in, not even 2 years in Metro West. Uh-huh. And when I came back, my wife and I bought a house, and we were here for such a short time. It was a house cooling party by the time we threw a party instead of a house warming, because we were leaving again. Right. And then came back in August of 2008. So if you can imagine the timing of that, all in hospitality, all in corporate roles here in Orlando. And as you can tell from the 2008 date, it's been a really long stint here. Yeah. Having a family, seeing them raised here, and really enjoying my time here in 2025. The journey,
you've been in the hospitality and travel business, and you've come back to Orlando several times. So, what is it? What is the industry concentration here? What is, what keeps bringing you back and now has kept you here? Talk about the industry that's in Orlando. Most people think travel and tourism is simply, people making beds or people operating rides, but there's so much more to that industry here. So could you talk a little bit about what's brought you back and then what the industry looks like?
Absolutely. And let me first say, having lived here 3 times in 3 different decades, I feel like I've lived in 3 different cities. And for different reasons. And obviously the clear reason is the growth has really been dynamic in this city, and it doesn't feel like it's stopping, and it's great the way this city is evolving, and in so many ways, so many fun ways. But I think an untold story about this city is I've worked for Marriott Vacations, which is headquartered here. Hilton Grand Vacations, which is headquartered here. Right. And my most recent move in 2017, I went to work for Wyndham Vacations, which we moved the headquartered here in, I think it was 2018 when we went public. Yep. And this industry, those 3 companies, plus there's a few private ones, which people know about, Westgate, very long participant in the market, Holiday Inn, to name a few, but there are even more. Yeah. That hospitality of vacation ownership is concentrated in the city of Orlando, and the employment base that it creates is dramatic. I think the interesting part of that is, and you said it is, making beds and checking people in. Sure, that's part of the work, but the reality is having the headquarters here, you've got job profiles that range from engineering, construction, corporate finance, consumer finance, IT. Our CTO formerly was with Qatar Airways and MGM.
Mm-hmm.
And the attraction of that type of talent and that broad base of jobs has dramatically changed. What keeps me coming back? Being employed is a good thing, but I think the maybe the better way to think about it is what gets me to stay. And it's really nice. Today's Friday. I plan on being on one of the coasts this weekend. So you can't do that for many cities in the U.S.
No, just the accessibility we have. You go east or west, or because of the airport not being a hub, but being one of the busiest in the world, we can go almost anywhere direct, and it's always a competitive rate.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'd be curious if you were to, what you would say, but people always talk about the food and the restaurants and, okay, Michelin stars coming in. You can get to Universal, you can get to Disney, you can get to SeaWorld, you can get to these theme parks. Those are the things that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
But there is something special about knowing that you can go, within an hour and a half, see the sunset, or if you wake up early enough, you can go see a sunrise and a rocket launch. But at the same time, I like to run. Getting old enough that I like to run on trails.
Right.
So there's so many beautiful trails in the wildlife here.
Yeah.
And this city offers a lot more than simply the things that you read in a brochure.
Right. That the things we're known for.
Yeah.
There's a whole nother level.
And there's a few local colleges here that some of us know about, right, Tim?
Yeah. Yeah. There's more than a few. Let's go back to 2018.
Yeah.
I can actually remember the day, sort of the ribbon cutting and the announcement on the company and the spinoff. You had Governor Rick Scott at the time.
We did, yeah.
And I could just remember the glass of the building, the time of the day, just made it an incredibly hot moment.
It was.
It was a hot, exciting moment.
It's Florida.
Yeah.
It's Florida. But
from two angles, I think, at the same time.
Yeah, it sort of felt like one of those Marvel films where there was a overly powerful laser beam
exactly
right against my forehead or something like that.
Yeah, in a suit trying to.
But it was an extremely proud moment, and you could see it on everyone's faces. And we had worked hard, and similar. I mentioned Merit Vacations and Hilton, and then Wyndham. All three of those hospitality companies separated and became public and domiciled here in Orlando.
Right.
They didn't choose to go back to Bethesda or Parsippany, New Jersey.
Yep.
And, obviously when you're separating a company and going public, it's a little sensitive because, you're leaving New Jersey to come to Orlando. And I was sort of low keying that on the day. And then Governor Scott gets up there and he said, Mike's just going where there are low taxes and warm weather. Who wouldn't want to do that? And I sort of thought about it. I said, it's a great reason. And candidly, why so many people are coming to Florida these days.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a part of it. So this journey you've been on with what was Wyndham Destinations, talk about the transition of becoming Travel and Leisure. I know it's good stories. This all happened around COVID.
It did.
So how'd that come to be?
It did. So to set the stage is we separated from Wyndham Hotels. They remained Wyndham Hotels. We became Wyndham Destinations, the vacation ownership side of our brand. And as we were heading into COVID and looking at our growth trajectory, we said, in our business, you want to attract more and more affinity consumer bases. But when you're a mono brand company, you're sort of drilling in the same well all the time. Okay. And our vision was, how do you open up the oil field where you can drill in multiple holes, some unsuccessful, some successful. And we saw that being a mono brand hospitality company was limiting us from doing that.
Okay.
So we transitioned. We went out. We saw that Sports Illustrated was bought by Authentic, and it laid the seed in our mind that, hey, if that publishing company is willing to sell Sports Illustrated, maybe they're willing to sell Travel and Leisure. So we introduced the topic. My last meeting before COVID in March of 2020, introduced the subject. And in January of 2021, we bought the magazine, the IP. We licensed back to the publishing company the rights to do the magazine, complete editorial independence. But then putting that umbrella brand over top of our business allowed us to now pursue new brands without the brand conflict or the,
right.
I won't say ego, but there's a competitive level there. And since that time of January 2021, we went from having basically a Wyndham brand. Now we have Sports Illustrated Resorts, which we've announced 3 locations. Eddie Bauer for our outdoor brand, which we are launching and in sales already. We've acquired Accor Vacation Club, probably the most prominent international hospitality company. And maybe 2026, we'll find a few more brands that we can announce. And now today, we are a multi-brand company.
I mean, I think it's fascinating strategy. I don't know if there's other examples of that that come to mind, but it's interesting. Sports Illustrated, you mentioned, I think Tuscaloosa, Chicago.
We just announced Chicago this week or last. We just announced it. And there's this little town in Tennessee that has been developing for about 15 years called Nashville. And that city is, I always say there's Austin, Nashville, and Orlando. Those 3 cities are exploding. And we just had our leadership conference in Nashville. And I thought 10 years ago they couldn't have more cranes in the city, but it's exploding. And so, yes, it's arguable, depending on who you ask, but Chicago, one of the best sports towns in the U.S.
Yeah.
Alabama, the most Sports Illustrated covers of any college sport. And then Nashville, Tennessee has a combination of great colleges and professional sports. So
right.
That's just the start of where we think we're going to be going.
Yeah, there's one of the former executives from ESPN wrote a book, Every Town's a Sports Town, which I think bodes well for a business such as a Sports Illustrated Resort. I mean, there's so many places that take a lot of pride in their city based on sports.
Well, what you're saying is what we're trying to tap into in hospitality. If you think about how people want to spend their time, whether it's on the television or in their music or in hospitality, they're tightening that range of options to a few that matches their lifestyle. Now, we've had the Margaritaville brand.
I think I'm ahead of the curve on that.
You are.
If you want to mention any movie quotes, I'm going to ask you if there was a ball involved, because if there wasn't, I probably don't know the movie.
Well, you probably have a few Sandlot quotes, and
oh yeah, you're killing me, Smalls.
Yeah, that's a great one. But people want to match their lifestyle to their 4 rooms and a bed, as opposed to you tell me what the 4 rooms and a bed that I'm going to get, and I'll stay there. That feels very different. And if you've got if you have a location in Tuscaloosa, Alabama that celebrates where you have your passion, that's what you want. And why, when you put your head on your pillow, does it have to divorce itself from your lifestyle? And we're talking about not just the room, but tying in the tailgating and the watch parties and the networking opportunities, because we just want our free time to be more than simply a check-in and a check-out.
And I'm surprised, knowing you a little bit, that, I'm going to guess Charlottesville might be on the list. South Bend might be on the list.
Well,
a couple places you're familiar with.
Well, the issue that I have is there's always the professional persona and the public persona or private persona. And there's a lot of, if I own my own business, there's probably a few places I'd like to go. But I think we are going to follow the macro trends. And if you look at anything that's happening today, you're going to see that there's a big push into the Southeastern Conference. And it's great to be in the Sun Belt. Our Club Wyndham Resorts do the best in the Sun Belt states. So we're really attracted to the Southeastern Conference. The Big Ten has some great locations, but it takes a small alumni base and a lot of passion,
right?
And it's not hard to find those locations. But like anywhere in business, whether it's cars or restaurants or hospitality, you have to launch something, and you can't be looking, 5 years down the road. Well, you sort of have to be, but you don't get the opportunity to be 5 years down the road unless you're successful in year 1 and 2. So we're really focused on a really strong launch.
Okay, so let's stay with travel and leisure, sort of the business side of things. You made a big move. You're in the middle of a big move,
right?
And you're moving the headquarters into downtown Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for many reasons, it's technically west of I-4, where there hasn't been as much investment and activity as there has been on the eastern side of I-4. But another, a downtown headquarters makes a statement. Downtowns have changed a lot since COVID. So I'm curious, take us through a little bit of the decision-making process of how you arrived that was the right move for travel and leisure.
Well, let me step back on the other question, and I think it'll help greatly inform our move downtown. When we bought the magazine Travel and Leisure, the idea was to become a multi-brand company and to start opening a door. That acquisition was to open the door that's what we wanted to do. And the critics out there amongst...
I'm sure there were some. There's always, right?
There's always of, and it came from a number of different areas because it was different.
Right.
And the critique was explain exactly where this will lead you. And the answer was it opened the first door, and we didn't know what was going to be behind the first door.
Right. You just got to get started.
And what surprised us was the number of doors it opened after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just keep opening doors and seeing incremental opportunity. It's an investment in a belief, and we pursued the belief, and it's created more opportunity. And I say that because that was our business strategy. But when you come across to things like moving downtown, when you look around Orange County, Osceola, Seminole County, there are great corporate parks everywhere.
Yeah.
And there still are. And we evaluated a lot about moving to a corporate park. The truth of the matter for us is, as we started to look and evaluate the difference between the two, the downtown area, although there are things that we hope happen in the downtown area, provided a real access to a variety of elements. And elements is a vague word, but transportation, restaurants, entertainment. We have a suite at the Orlando City Soccer. Our team members can now walk there. We're involved with the Orlando Magic similarly. You can walk across the street. Right. You can take the Sun Rail down. And all of a sudden the idea of, and if you pull it back to what I said about hospitality, of not just being four walls and a bed, not just being a front door and a cube, right. This downtown area now provides a holistic approach to the work environment. And we were excited about that. Mm-hmm. When you get to economics, they're not that big of differences in everywhere you go. And I think we've all worked I've worked in a corporate park for a long time, and And I will tell you, I am super excited about not necessarily the building, although the building's great, but accessing a new group of people, a new group of relationships, a new group of activities. And, you know, we were in that building 13 years. A fresh feel is going to be good for us as well.
Yeah. I'm sure you missed the views of the dolphins in the tank, but you'll have new and different views. I do want to tap into one thing you said, because I've been thinking about it a lot lately. You talked about the making a strategic decision when you made the acquisition of Travel and Leisure that opened more doors, and you got away from the status quo, and you essentially ended a brand that had probably a surer path forward. So, you know, there's one of the books out there calls it necessary endings. Just how do you look at those decisions of disrupting yourself, of bringing something to a close, but forcing yourself to create something that's new?
Well, one of the lessons throughout my career was, I worked for Hilton Grand Vacations for 9 years and loved my time there. I think it's a great company. I felt I was adding value up until the day I left, which is roughly 9 years in, and they continue to be a really strong company based here in Orlando. But when I left there and joined the new company, one of my first ahas in the first 3 months was I had a way of thinking. And keep in mind, I was with Merit 16 years before that.
Right.
And leaving them was tough because, again, another great company. My aha after 9 years was you start realizing you're critiquing the painting that you painted. And you don't have an ability to be objective in a way that expands what your future can be. You find yourself half the time justifying or explaining or having prejudice that a decision that someone brings, we've already visited that and we can't revisit it.
Right.
And when I changed companies, I realized it was a self-awareness about the way I think, and it got me. I tend to be risk averse, and it got me thinking that you've got to start swinging bigger on bigger ideas if you believe it's definitely the right way to pursue the business. So it was a risk. It was a measured risk. I mean, you can take much bigger swings than that, but transitioning out of that has been super hard because change is difficult. Yeah. But what I would say to you is it's easy to ride out into the sunset on something that has a limited horizon. Our Wyndham business is doing phenomenal, and it will for the next decade. But if you're ever going to leg up and accelerate growth or find a horizon that's further in the distance, you've got to make some real choices at some point. And the day I say I don't want a further horizon is the day that it's probably time for me to get off the horse and walk away, because public company CEOs should not be riding into their own sunset. They should be defining the company's horizon.
Looking at downtown Orlando in a similar way, I think before COVID, oftentimes they'd even be referred to as central business district. Well, then people stopped coming to work for a period of time. Now the trend is definitely back in the office more and more. It started as maybe 2 days a week. Now it's more like 3 or 4 days a week. But it's really changed the dynamics of downtowns.
Right.
And the downtowns that have done the best nationally are the ones that were over-indexed on residential. Because people still, as soon as kind of the restrictions were lifted, people got back to restaurants. People got back to walking on their dog, and got back to, dropping clothes off at the dry cleaners and all the urban amenities that people have in a downtown. So downtown, I think, is also going through an inflection point of having to become this sort of cultural hub. We have great venues in our downtown that draw people in and are thriving, like the Kia Center. So not only is there NBA basketball, but there's lots of concerts on a regular basis. There's wrestling. There's all sorts of things. Same thing with the football stadium. Same thing now at Orlando City Soccer. They've opened it up to different uses as well. And certainly Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts is active most days out of the year.
Which everything you mentioned is primarily event-driven.
It's event-driven. You coming downtown is going to be a great boost. But also, there's a need for more people living downtown. We have a quadrant, kind of our downtown, that's interesting because it historically has housed, senior citizens that aren't as sort of active and walking throughout the city on a regular basis. Up towards the north end of downtown, you've had more young professionals and families, right? That there's some great restaurants up at the north end of town.
There's a restaurant, there's a trail, there's some lakes, and there's residential community nearby. It has more than event-driven opportunities.
So what do you see as part of the future of the core of downtown Orlando, of how, we could be talking about any city USA right now, because I think everyone's dealing with the same thing. We were just in Charlotte. They're dealing with the same thing.
Sure.
How, what do you think it's going to take for cities like that to thrive?
Well, I interrupted you twice to use the word event. And as I was driving here this morning and walked down Church Street, I looked and I thought, my goodness, there's gorgeous architecture here. There's a main street downtown Orlando that has a feel to it. We're moving in. There's the development that's going to go in right next to us, also west of I-4. And I think in the next 3 to 5 years, you are going to have a lot of daytime natural activity, not people only in their offices or in their homes, working, waiting to go to an evening event. And there's got to be this balance between providing daytime, non-event driven activity, so that the downtown is a commercially vibrant, lifestyle vibrant, 24/7. Because the consumer changes from day to night, but it's not an either or. You should be able to have both. I mean, where we're moving in, you can walk to Sunrail, but if you think about the communities that are within a scooter ride from our building, you can get to a really large piece of our community by scooter outside of downtown. My wife and son, my college son, they went to, I think, either a concert or a soccer game or something at Camping World. They got on a scooter and went all the way to Winter Park on it. And I think Winter Park doesn't, they shut off.
I don't know if I would do that, but
they did.
They're adventurous, right?
They did, but I guess my point is I never thought you would do that. But with the urban trail, this downtown area between walking your dog, running, baristas, coffee shops, Michelin star restaurants, the conversion. There's sushi restaurants that are in old warehouses down here. It just needs that vibrancy that's constant, and it has the bones. The bones to do it.
Yeah, it does.
And I hope the right developers. I'm not familiar with all the development activity down here, but I hope the right developer comes in and really puts some time and energy into the daytime
I think there's a lot
economy.
of opportunity here. A lot of opportunity. I think you see it. We've got to dive in. So, pulling on the neighborhood theme, because I think that's the way a lot of people talk about what downtown needs to be is a really great neighborhood as well. And you've been amongst the sort of most foremost civic leaders in the community of recognizing a need in a particular part of Central Florida and figuring out how to make a long-term play, talking about Eatonville and your foundation's work. So talk about how you got into that way of thinking, about how you got into realizing that certain neighborhoods have just had this low-level investment for a long time, and how do you change that?
Right. Well, let me first by saying it's through no vision of my own, and I don't say that in a sort of self-deprecating way. It's just the reality. Mm-hmm. I've been to enough events and I've listened with an open mind to what I've heard, and just certain things have struck me, and I'll share a few examples of that. Pre-COVID, I remember they were giving a lifetime award to Harris Rosen at the time Amway, now Kia Center. Yep. And he just told a story, and I'd only been in my role 2 years. And when I heard his story, I said, that story makes sense to me. If we can ever do something like what Harris Rosen did in Tangelo, sign me up. You know, we're a global company, but if we can just do that in Orlando, why wouldn't you? And sure. now that we're 4 years in, I still don't know why people wouldn't do something like that. So in the process of hearing Harris and then coming out of COVID, I also met with Eddie Moreton, and he shared with me the communities in the greater Orlando. I think at the time it was 11 zip codes that had needs. And we said, okay, well, they're doing this great work over in Paramore. Harris's program is this. That sort of leads to Eatonville would be a great one where we can really support, and the community, originally Mayor Eddie and now Mayor Gardner, who have been just super welcoming to our team, and that's led us to then take it to Osceola County, and now our educational program, which is basically guaranteed preschool, and if you have any financial needs for college after going through the normal process for a Florida State school, we will make sure there's a safety net and we will fund that for you. So it's basically sort of that educational sandwich. So we're trying to do that in 2 defined communities. Yeah. And we're 3/4 of the way there. Our last leg on that is to get a preschool in Osceola. And I'd love to give you some high-minded philosophical reason, but we're headquartered here. I think our culture, people care. Our associates' faces light up when they get to serve the town of Eatonville or serve down in Reedy Creek and Ponciana High. It's for no one. It's work. It's effort, but it's not work for anyone. It makes for a holistic work experience.
I mean, it's life-changing.
I think it's life-changing for the people we're helping, but you cannot underestimate the impact that it has for people who are offering the help. It's right. I think deep down people want to add value to others and to themselves, and this is a way that you can see it real time. Maybe next year you come to our gala and you see these kids who are now getting their diplomas that 4 years ago we simply said, how can we help? And it's it's an emotional moment and it's a meaningful moment. But look, it's a speck on what other great philanthropic groups are doing here in Orlando.
Yeah, it's a great model that's that you've rejuvenated here. Harris Rosen certainly has done that, and in his legacy continues to do that. But now adding 2 more communities, and you have Eddie Moreton, sort of this, it's maybe academic, but calling it sort of place-based, of finding an area that really needs help, right? As opposed to trying to sprinkle something throughout an entire city or an entire region,
right? And sort of coming back to the theme of our company and moving downtown, it was the same thing. We were not ready to launch this in Eatonville, and we went in to speak to the mayor, and he said, love it. And everyone said, wait till 22. And we launched the scholarship in 21, and we were not ready. There were 4 kids that got that scholarship, and I think all 4 of them are are a combination of either graduated or about to graduate, because they went through like the community college approach and then transferred to UCF.
Yeah.
So it's that the theme that I'm trying to get to is sometimes it's just better to act and then figure it out as you move along. Some things you can't do that with, but you know, speed is a good thing, and you know, being wrong along the way is okay as long as you've got the dexterity to course correct in the process.
Right. No, a lot of wisdom in that. So no one gets out of the chair without sharing sort of a great read, a great watch. You know, what would you recommend?
So I watch two things. I screen international films for the Enzians Film Festival.
Okay.
So I watch a ton of subtitled movies.
Okay.
And we just started screening, but the Netflix series that I've watched recently that I'm super excited for season 2 to come out is Three Body Problem, which is it's a very heavily science-based futuristic film.
Oh.
I won't go too much into it, but it's a Chinese novel that they turned into season 1, but I loved it. I just watched Adolescence as well, which is a 4-part series, and then I think it won a ton of Emmys, but it's just an incredible 4-episode series about adolescence and a family dynamic. Books, I'm more of a podcast person. And I'm a big history person, so my book would be The Pillars of the Earth, Ken Follett.
Oh, really? All 900 pages of
all
it?
900 pages. I've read it 3 times. And then I would say podcast. I listen to Morgan Stanley's. They have Thoughts on the Market, 5 minutes. And if you want to know what's really going on, both on a short and long arc, I'm always listening to that. I listen to The Rest is History, which is a great history, 3 to 4 episodes. You can play it at 1 and 1.25 and get through it on a run or a walk pretty quickly. And then just with everything going on in our geopolitics and in national politics, I try to get a point of view from not each side, but from a number of different commentators.
Right.
And just be open to perspectives and form my own opinion over the course. So that's sort of my leisure time. I'll disappear from my house for like an hour and a half, and my wife will be like, "Are you on a walk listening to a podcast again?
Are you walking back and forth in front of the house to finish
it?" No. I've got a route that actually. I walk from my house, I walk to Eatonville, I walk down Palmer, down toward the Lakemont area, and then I walk down through Rollins. So I've got like 3 or 4 paths, and I try to get 12,000 steps in a day. So in every direction, I know what'll get me there, and I know how many podcasts. But even what's interesting when I go for these walks or runs, you can see how neighborhoods change over a year or two. And that area up and down 1792 between sort of the 50 and Maitland Boulevard, it's not the same place as it was even 2019. So Orlando's changing, and I think it's changing in a great way. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. Before we let you go, everyone wants to know, where can they learn more about you, learn more about travel and leisure?
There's a lot of different sources for the professional class. It's our investor relations, travelandleisureco.com, investor relations, all about our leadership group, our corporate responsibility, financial results. We're all over Instagram, either the handle Travel and Leisure Co, or if you want to look at some of our resorts, Club Wyndham, World Mark, Margaritaville. And then Facebook as well. So if you're listening today and not writing this down, I'm sure they'll put it in the show notes.